All right, good afternoon, guys. My name is Brett Geen. I'm going to be talking to you today about SD-WAN and some of the ways to simplify branch office networking. I'm taking over for Dylan Bowders, who was going to host this webinar today. Unfortunately, due to travel challenges, I'm going to help fill in, and luckily enough, this is one of my favorite topics. So I'm happy to kind of walk through the SD-WAN technologies with you today and give a little overview of our perspective on the services. Again, my name is Brett Geen. I'm a senior solutions engineer with RapidScale. I've been with RapidScale for about 3 years now, an IT practitioner by heart. You know, I love working with SD-WAN and so forth. So let's dive right in. Just a little information around this. We are recording this. And the recording will be sent out to you in the next day or so. For those that are not able to join, any partners or colleagues that you work with, we do have a lot of valuable information in this webinar, so sharing it with them would be worthwhile. And then if you have any questions, you are welcome to chat them. We will go through the presentation and answer any of the questions you may have at the end. So looking at some market analysis, which helps drive a lot of the conversations towards SD-WAN these days, 90% of the branch equipment on on-premise environments is coming up for refresh, you know, roughly around this year. Routers, more specifically, when you're looking at telcos and providing managed internet, you know, obviously routers and even further into the firewalls are areas of concern that we can look at providing an SD-WAN solution to help consolidate some of that environment or help replace and increase availability of internet across the board. You know, with organizations moving a lot of their business to cloud-related services, there is a huge change in the way the traffic flows for organizations, connecting to services like Office 365, business applications that are hosted in the cloud and video-related content, being able to leverage all of your available bandwidth to create a very quality connection and service is very key. And for users or for organizations that have an infrastructure today where they're only leveraging one out of a few different connections, they're only receiving, you know, suboptimal quality based on, you know, without the use of an AI-driven intelligent network service like SD-WAN. So, you know, obviously, you know, discussing SD-WAN with customers that have a need to provide their end users a resilient, efficient, and a trustworthy connection that is always up is a huge driver for the SD-WAN technologies these days. Common challenges that we run across when talking with customers, obviously, being able to, you know, scale their environment, be very agile and more importantly, cost effective is a huge challenge. You know, customers have traditionally spent a lot of money on MPLS links, which gives great internet connectivity, low latency connections to their data centers or their applications, but it comes with a cost. Or you may have organizations, think of financial or manufacturing, where you have many branches out in the environment, and you may come across branch sprawl where a lot of engineers are spending most of their day-to-day configuring individual branches for new services that they are either signing up for or new branches that they're adding to their environment. And the cost of hardware as well. You're adding a lot of costly hardware to each location, more often not on a CapEx expenditure, which, you know, adds to the cost of your MPLS links or your high-end DIA or internet connectivity, which, you know, increases, you know, budget over a period of time. From a complexity standpoint, you know, a lot of organizations, whether they're small, medium-sized businesses, or even some of the larger businesses, are growing at a pace where their lack of management on the infrastructure is starting to present a challenge to them. Their control or visibility into what's happening on that network, where their data is going, how secure is that data from endpoint to endpoint, and or who is consuming bandwidth in their environment. Understanding a lot of those metrics are not necessarily visible or provide any sort of information to the management staff to make intelligent decisions on how to best spend their money on network. SD-WAN is able to come in and provide a lot of information around up to individual services or applications the business is using and how that data is trafficking over their network through their data center or out to the internet. Slow deployment. As in conjunction with branch sprawl, you may have customers out there with 30, 40, 50 sites and one IT network engineer who's configuring all these sites. And for every individual change that needs to happen on the network, you've got to go touch 40, 50 other sites to incorporate that change. So a lot of organizations with larger sites or locations are having to spend more time methodically rolling out a solution as compared to SD-WAN, where you can go through and very easily in a few clicks of a button add a site in and populate those settings across all of your locations. And it creates a very efficient rollout. It creates a very templatized and standardized rollout as you're able to work through one single pane of glass rather than go touch 30, 40, possibly 50 locations or pieces of infrastructure to make those changes. You also have to incorporate in human error. Some challenges, even though it's not shown, is human error. If you have to go do the same task 30, 40, 50 times, there is a chance that one of those configuration changes may result in a misconfiguration or an all-out degradation in service or outage for that organization. Again, with SD-WAN, going through and presenting one single pane of glass and a templatized and standardized solution, publishing it out to each of the locations really takes a lot of that challenge out of the mix. And then, traditionally being ready, so to speak, for some of your SaaS-based and IaaS services has been challenging. You have to incorporate all new routing rules and so forth into your network, which again goes into the IT team spending time and energy provisioning or upgrading their infrastructure to prepare for SaaS-based services. The SD-WAN solutions, the right SD-WAN solution these days has a lot of those readiness services already built into the solution. So whether you're moving into a SaaS-based provider like Office 365 or any business line application that the organization uses, more often than not, the SD-WAN solution, the right SD-WAN solution, is going to have that built in so that it takes those configuration challenges out of the mix, and it provides you a very seamless way to implement them into your organization. So what makes SD-WAN so compelling? Well, again, based on how efficient you're able to provision new sites, how you're able to make changes across your topology, you are able to scale your environment much faster. You're taking all that time that went into development of the topology for your organization, and you're now able to reassess and use that time for other projects. You're able to use that template, that standardization within the SD-WAN solution to very quickly publish out your changes to all locations. Again, that goes into the time it takes, days and not months. You're not having to touch however many devices within your organization to make one configuration change. And from a pricing standpoint, if you're looking at, from an OpEx model, the cost of an SD-WAN appliance versus the cost of a router or firewall, you can look and see that the cost is fairly comparable. But what you need to take in mind is the amount of IT workforce it takes to make those changes on for that organization, and how long it's going to take for them to go through that process and again work through everything I've just mentioned with creating the methodology and rollout process. So at the end of the day, you're coming in lower on price because you're able to accomplish your tasks faster and more standardized, so you're not having to deal with issues or any type of triage along the way. Again, from a CapEx standpoint, obviously, SD-WAN from RapidScale standpoint is an OpEx solution. We provide the customers a monthly service for SD-WAN. So there's no challenges anymore with looking for CapEx to purchase equipment, whereas traditional networking environments for organizations, you have to buy routers and switches and so forth. In a lot of cases, more often small to medium-sized businesses, you can consolidate your switching or minimize your switching and consolidate your router and your firewall services into the single appliance per site, per location. And then obviously with uptime, part of SD-WAN's, service, the main goal around SD-WAN is to provide the intelligent traffic steering or intelligent traffic decisions that leverage, one or multiple circuits that customer may have, whether it's MPLS and or any sort of commodity internet circuit through a local provider. SLAs are often higher because you're able to route over one or more at any given time to make the services you're providing for your end users available to them over the internet. So why RapidScale for SD-WAN? Well, we've partnered with VeloCloud, with VMware, and we have a great relationship with VMware. It starts with our partnership. We are able to take that and we're able to provide consulting services from a land side to understand the business need for each organization. We can go in and determine whether small, medium-sized businesses may have an overly complex network, and we can help minimize that topology on site to make things a little bit more efficient for the organization. Or vice versa, maybe there's a little too much simplicity in the network, and we can help redesign them along the way to create a more efficient network, even though maybe more complex. We are carrier agnostic. We do not necessarily partner with one carrier to provide the SD-WAN services over. The customer is able to go out and provide or to procure any sort of internet media that they would like to access their environment, whether it's through RapidScale, through RapidScale's data center and services, whether it's out to any sort of SaaS-based service. They are able to use any sort of media that they'd like. That goes from an MPLS circuit, fiber, broadband. We provide LTE services more as a tertiary solution for a third backup source in the event that anything may happen otherwise at a customer location. And we can work with every single one of those carriers to overlay our SD-WAN technology over. On top of that, RapidScale also provides a circuit monitoring solution. And we can go in and we can monitor your carriers or the customer's carrier circuits, whether AT&T, Verizon, so that in the event that there is an outage, RapidScale can call on behalf of the customer and triage that circuit issue. More often than not, and I've seen it a few times in our environment, the customer will receive a notification, and RapidScale will have already called out and made a ticket with the carrier, and we will be working with them before the customer even sees the notification in their email. More often than not, we'll have it solved much faster in that method as we are proactively engaging with those carriers. Another value that we have with our partnership with VMware, being a service provider, is that we can host our own gateways. Now, what does that mean? VMware has a number of gateways that they provide for their VeloCloud services for their customers to connect to and access through their data centers across the globe. There is a premium for accessing through the VMware gateways. It's built into the cost of the solution, but there is a premium added to it for leveraging VMware's gateways. The gateway is typically your end device that all locations communicate through to create that redundancy across your circuits to a device on the opposite end. And that's your means to access SaaS-based services out to the internet or into any data center that you may host some sort of services from. Now, RapidScale has become a provider with VMware so that we can host our own gateways. And that means we're able to reduce the cost of licensing and bandwidth licenses to the customer and provide them a low-cost option to connect into services. It even goes one step further and allows the customer to have direct connectivity to RapidScale in the event that we host their IaaS or desktop as a service services to create a very controlled, managed connection from their on-premise environment into RapidScale. It allows us to go through and put optimizations in place, leveraging our services or leveraging VeloCloud to get to our services in our data centers. Another value that we offer is that we do not charge for bandwidth. So unlike other providers out there who charge for ingress or egress data rates, per gig or what have you, we do not charge for bandwidth. We have ample bandwidth in every single one of our data centers that customers can access. And we do not rate them. We do not charge them. It is a value that we provide our customers hosting services with us. And again, going back to management, we will provide all the management across all the devices for each customer. And we do provide a hybrid or co-management model, which is built into the service. And that allows RapidScale to fully take on any of the day-to-day changes, the day-to-day maintenance that may go into a customer's network, any sort of add, move, change, deletes, new offices coming on or old offices being shut down, or for us to go through and make any routing changes or triage any of your circuits, as I mentioned before. We can fully manage that. The customer, all they need to do is open a ticket with us to have us work through that process for them. Now, in a co-management model, we open up the portal so that customers can get in with, if they feel comfortable to do so, and go in and make any changes that they feel necessary at their convenience. This allows them to do things in a timely manner for what works for them and the maintenance that they may have. But at any time, if there's an issue that arises through that change, or if there's a number of changes that are happening and time permitting from the customer side, they cannot complete it in their specific amount of window or whatever the case may be, they can then call RapidScale, and RapidScale will take over the services from that point forward and help complete that project. So from a co-management model, customers are able to leverage RapidScale or take on their own, change management in a manner that they'd like to, and then pass off to RapidScale when needed. And then last on this part, we have the ability to connect in through all the hyperscalers. We understand that customers may have infrastructure that is built in Azure or through AWS. And we realize that some of our customers need some of their sites or all their sites or their data center to connect through to those hyperscalers for the services that they host there. We have partnered with all the data centers in our parent company, Cox, and we've provided access from our data centers, from our gateways, into those hyperscalers. And in working and consulting with the customers, we can put together a design that makes sense for their organization to allow them access into the hyperscalers at more than likely a reduced cost in the way that they were traditionally doing it before, possibly through the internet or directly with them. We'll dive into some pre-sales questions, our questionnaire here. Some things to ask your customers or your prospects when you go to meet them and start the discussion. Some are, how many locations do you have? Again, we'll kind of go back to what I mentioned before. SD-WAN, and in our case, VeloCloud, is great, potentially even for one site. But 2 sites or more is really where you start seeing your sweet spot, because that's when you start lowering the the management needs of all the networking infrastructure and the hardware that goes into bringing a site online, and we're able to more efficiently and in a templatized way bring up that location. So it starts a conversation on how many sites and how long does it take for your engineers to work through any network changes that you may have within the organization. What applications do you need to be identified and prioritized? Some organizations may have 2 or 3 applications that are business critical to that organization. And if they go down, that may be a financial impact to that organization that they more often than not do not want to incur, or maybe have incurred and they'd like to move past, and SD-WAN would be a great solution for that. So understanding what applications need to be prioritized will give an insight into their organization, how they leverage their applications today, and what kind of financial impact they have if there is any sort of issue on a networking standpoint. What kind of routing protocols do they currently use? This normally goes into, and this is normally your higher end, more enterprise customers, but routing protocols like BGP, OSPF, and so forth. Just understanding that they have a configuration with BGP, not even understanding the technical backend behind it, gives you an idea that, or should give you an idea that there's some more complex configurations in place. Maybe they're connecting through to hyperscalers today, and leveraging VeloCloud through RapidScale's gateway will allow them to potentially reduce that cost of their direct connection with a hyperscaler, and we can continue that same routing protocol through our environment at a more cost-effective rate. Is there any current WAN or layer 2, layer 3 segments in the network? What this really means is there are carriers out there that provide services. There's many different acronyms. Some that are more familiar are Type 2, Type 3, MPLS, and that all means, you know, certain things to certain customers. But what kind of routing topology do you have in place so that we can build an appropriate topology to leverage the best of those networks? If they have MPLS, maybe we could go in and look at see if that MPLS is not necessary for the type of services they're looking to connect through. And maybe they can look to reduce their cost of MPLS and go with another direct internet connection through a commodity ISP here in the local area. Do you plan to replace your current on-premise firewall? And if so, is there anybody that manages them today? That's a great question to ask. It comes into consolidating the environment. It comes into who else has their hands in the environment, and how can we look to build a better topology. Who in the company is responsible for day-to-day IT? Again, that goes into how many IT folks do you guys have in the environment? Maybe they're a one-person shop, maybe they're a no-person shop, and someone that's not qualified handles their day-to-day. Maybe they have 3 to 5, 10 different IT folks in the organization, and everyone is in a particular silo that has a hand in how the SD-WAN solution should be built and run on a daily basis. And then again, which RapidScale data centers should be leveraged for the gateway? Where are their main locations? Do we need to connect them into 2 different data centers for different routing purposes? Maybe a primary and a secondary for failover, or what's going to give them the best connection latency-wise from a distance standpoint to access their services and to the SaaS providers. A quick case study here. I know we only have about 5 minutes left. We've got an organization, there's a number that we've worked with in the past, but this particular one we worked with on the West Coast. They had an infrastructure that was made up primarily of MPLS networks with some commodity ISPs at a number of their locations. And this particular company had a small IT staff serving, as you can see, 57 locations. And so they were having challenges on their day-to-day network changes that were needing to happen. They were growing very quickly at that time, scaling offices up and down depending on certain needs of that organization. And they were having poor connectivity, poor latency, and so forth across some of these, and they could not get past it because there was no intelligent routing decisions happening on their network at that time. They were sending all traffic out one MPLS circuit. When that failed, they would have to manually move them over to their secondary circuit. RapidScale came in and assessed and consulted with their team on their topology, and we were able to come through and, over a course of 2-3 months, provide them a solution that took their $65,000 roughly internet or IT infrastructure spend down to around $42,000, and we saved them money, roughly $20,000 a month. We improved their services. We put that SD-WAN solution for the intelligent routing and application prioritization in place, and they are a very happy customer. Their network is doing really well, and their IT staff is managing the infrastructure at a much better efficiency than they were before, based on the standard templates that we were created for them. And last but not least here, RapidScale spent a lot of time and energy building out a customer portal. This customer portal has multiple purposes. It is to create a single pane of glass for all of our customers to log into and to access, tickets, any of their services, look at their licensing, modify any of their Office 365, Microsoft services, or whatever they may have with us. From a VeloCloud standpoint, we have put a lot of time and energy working with VeloCloud to integrate their services, their APIs into our portal so that we can provide our customers a single pane to look at all of their infrastructure from a VeloCloud standpoint, along with some metrics and some valuable information that company may need, all on that single portal. And I will quickly share that with you live. Here I've got a quick demo environment that we've set up. We're inside of the RapidScale portal, and I've logged into here our RapidScale SE demo environment, and I'm on the VeloCloud tab. You can see we've got 2 environments here that we do some testing with, both out in California. Our main site has 2 internet circuits, and our second site has 3 internet circuits. And the customer, no matter how many sites they may have, upwards 100, 200, whatever the case may be, will all be listed down here, and they'll be aggregated here on a map where you can see the individual sites and the addresses that they belong to. You could go one step further and click on any of these sites, and we'll have, and I just refreshed my page, so it may take a second here, but we will have information populate about that particular site. So we can look at the addresses again. We can look at the type of device. This one is a virtual machine. We can look at some of the information around the links, the scores that may be happening right now, which are essentially VeloCloud's intelligent analysis engine saying what the quality of those circuits are connected through that device are. Right now, 10 is the highest possible network setting, so that's proving very well. You can look at information about typical applications that may be coming through that device, and that gives you an idea of what applications your organization is using from each location. And where you're connected through, what gateways you're connected on, and if you have any failover services in place. So this is a great area for engineers to come through, or even managers to look at and make sure everything is working well. If there's any degradation, you obviously would see this here with the little icons. And we have worked with customers who have access to this, and in the event that there is degradation, it's very worthwhile looking and seeing immediately where the triage point needs to be and where to start. So I appreciate everyone taking the time listening to me today about this. I will open it up for questions. It looks like we are at the end. So if there are any questions that were chatted, we will follow up with an email at the end of this as we send out the presentation, and we will help answer any of those questions you guys may have. I appreciate you joining us today. Hopefully this was beneficial from an SD-WAN standpoint, and hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.